This is a How Is He podcast with Podge and Poppa, proudly sponsored by Ampifi. Power up your podcast. Let's kick it off.
Welcome to episode 61 of the How Is He podcast. Joined as always by my co-host Paul Poppa Dowling, right here, Poppa, in the fantastic facility Ampifi Studios in the heart of Carlow Town. This week we have...
You still nervous? Are you okay?
Every week. Every single week. Someone with...
Do you want me to tell you the boys' names then?
Have you been diagnosed yet? This week we're going to talk about Cup final.
Yeah.
We have your forfeit has been sorted. Sucker. And to be honest with you, this is probably going to be one of the most important episodes that we're going to do. And it goes way beyond the pitch. Joining us are two incredible guests. Garda Conor Egan, he's based in Carlow, and Bernard Horahan, local businessman and owner of Thailand Style. Both very respected figures in Carlow and in GA circles in the county. Both men have played a massive part in running an anti-drugs campaign, Drugs Ruin Lives, delivering close to 40 seminars around the county and beyond. Both are here to talk about prevention, addiction and the supports. Together, these lads are not just talking about the problem, Poppa, they're trying to do something about it, which is fantastic. Lads, welcome in.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Podge. Thank you.
I know you're both very busy men. It's great for you to share your time with us. It's brilliant. I'm looking forward to getting the conversation. But once we go to Cup final first, Poppa, what you hear?
I heard you walk one.
Thanks, Poppa. Absolutely riveting. Bernard, you were at it. So
Oh,
you
sorry,
had better insight.
What do you want me to tell you? I know, I wasn't at it, obviously, it was at a wedding, and I heard it was a tight affair. And Carney made a couple of saves in the goal, but no one could really say which team deserved to win. There were two super teams at it,
Yeah,
well organised. I think York scored first, and he equalised within a couple of minutes.
Yeah, great. Good header. Poor defender from us, good header. We equalised. Both teams missed chances. Both keepers made good saves, but at the end of the day, Craig Harney was the difference, and there was no doubt about it.
It's great to hear a pal man doing well on the soccer pitch. Once he doesn't forget to come back to us.
Oh, no, he won't.
I think both keepers played well, didn't they? They put off some good saves.
Jay made some good saves.
Good to see, yeah.
I think either team, there's nothing between them, in my opinion. Well, first of all, congratulations to the Walk. Third trophy this year, fair play to them. But there's nothing between them. I think it's great.
It's great to see the game being played properly compared to years ago.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to knock the ball around, do it right, so it's credit to both
Few
clubs.
people have said to me during the week about did the Carroll League go a week too early with the awards, individual awards. Like they said, right, it's Pat's first year in a long time, 20-something years. Badger got manager of the year, but Gavin picked up three trophies and a Leinster final and got no award, which is a super achievement as well. And then there's other, I don't know, but look, it's an argument people will always have.
I have to say they were extremely gracious until I opened my Twitter about 11 o'clock in Brennan's. I've seen a couple of tweets from lads, but look, boys will be boys, won't they? But anyway, congratulations to them again, and I think everyone's going to improve around them. I think it's going to be even better again, Poppa.
It'll be a tough year, sure. Who's coming up? Felix.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of derby games next year. Bernard weren't that time behind the goal.
Very young squad, Felix.
Very young.
Very young, yeah.
Yeah.
Seen them playing this year a good few times.
Good
soccer players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Couple of great chaps on it.
They have, yeah. A good few lads didn't play this year either, so they're expecting a few lads to come back. So
yeah.
And a lot of GA lads playing now, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, prioritising probably soccer, like St. Felix, New Oak. They'd all have a good tranche of GA lads playing with them.
Yeah, it's good. Well, look, it's good, but like I always say, there's 7 nights in a week. You know what I mean?
Just we said it many times. Your best soccer players, your best Gaelic players.
Yeah.
They're nearly just dual, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way it goes. But
yeah, it's enough of that foreign sport. No, lads, seriously, thanks for coming on, because I know it's a subject. Well, first of all, a subject I'd have zero insight into, right? And I seen that you advertised a massive seminar in the Dolman Hotel last year. You had a couple of special guests, and we were recording the night of it. Remember, we mentioned on the podcast, and I didn't get down to it, but I want to talk about addiction, right? And where or why has it become so big in society? Like, if you go back 40 years, you talk about addiction, it's big cities. It's a big city problem. Look at the epidemic in central Dublin in the 80s and, you know, the big cities around Ireland. But it seems to be gone, like, nationwide. Talk to me about that.
I think attitudes have changed. There's been a shift in attitude that recreational drug use is now seen as acceptable. We've become a more liberal society. So I think that definitely attitudes have changed. You know, drugs now, it's in music, the music festivals, a night out involves drugs. The culture there is just so definitely attitudes have changed in Ireland in the last 20, 30 years as regards drug usage. There's no doubt about it.
It's pure acceptance now, that's it.
Yeah, there is the degree of acceptance. And then look at there's the social media influence, you know, the various social platforms, we won't mention them. I suppose they, you know, the way they push drugs in a certain way, glamorise it a little bit. You have young lads, they're looking at this different world. You know, the high-powered cars, the good clothes, as Bernard would often allude to, the jewellery and stuff. And, you know, maybe they want a little bit of that. I think a lot of young people are probably a little bit disillusioned at the moment. Maybe lack of opportunities, lack of money, lack of housing. And all that then feeds into something to replace that. And then this is where substance abuse or misuse comes in my opinion. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think you've hit a great point there on the kind of glamorising of it. Because I suppose if you look back through the years, it's associated with someone who's a down and out, who's no good. But if you look at it now, it's lads in Montrex and Canada Goose, and isn't it?
I suppose it has, yeah. But you know, the talks I was involved in I enjoyed them, and I had to commend the Carlow GA first of all. Jim Bulger, he was the chairman at the time, and he led the campaign that we went around to the clubs starting off, and it was very simple. You know, we had our campaign, Drugs Ruin Lives, and it was the Conor will speak to you later on about that and what it was about. But I suppose the angle I come from is just from having the experience of someone within the family who went through the mill, through addiction and through treatment and everything. And that was my brother. And thank God he's with us still. He's a great man. I'm very proud of him. And he allows me to speak at them meetings about him, which is good. And it's good to share. And I suppose from my angle, I'm just coming from the educational side to explain to people what can happen if it becomes a problem. We know how common drug use is within the society. It's in every nook and cranny, every village is there. That's not my job, that's Conor's job, right? So my job is just to advise young people on the pitfalls and, you know, what happens to people. And it's not that you're making up a story, they're true stories about what's happening to people and, you know, where they can fall down. So the response has been very good. And, you know, you go and you do a talk in a village somewhere, a town, and, you know, all the kids are there. And, you know, if one kid is listening, boy or girl, you've done your job. Yeah. And that's why I put the hours in, and it's important to do that, like, you know.
I think, is it fair to say that you probably need to make it real on them seminars for it to kind of hit home and to relate to people? And
yeah, you have to personalise it. I suppose heretofore, the drugs issue in Ireland was seen kind of as a guard issue, an enforcement issue. Now we're gone away from that, and rightly so. It's now kind of a public health. It's about recovery. It's about education. So, like, enforcement obviously still plays a huge part in between ourselves and customs, but I think education and preventative measures. And I think, like, for instance, there maybe last month, Bernard and I spent 3 hours below an SETU of a Friday evening talking to the Carlow J development groups, young lads,
Brilliant.
14, 15, 16, with their parents. So I think we do need to be starting at that age. I think going into TYs, probably in my opinion, is a little bit too late. And look, there are a lot of pressures on young people out there, particularly since COVID. There's a lot of issues, you know, anxiety, depression, just, you know, the day-to-day life getting at people, and they see drugs or substance abuse then maybe as a substitute. So it's just try to educate them that, you know, those bad decisions can come back to bite them. We'll speak about it later. You know, getting a drugs conviction stays with you for life. That's part of the heed, and Bernard referenced it there. So, you know, you go back, like that culture is there. The music festivals, like the drug culture.
It's the financial aspect as well,
yeah,
though, isn't
absolutely.
it? That's a major part.
Yeah. Like,
they live the life they're living. But
and again, it's glamorising it, but you must remember it's only the top tier, the middle tier, the top tier that have the fancy cars and showing the signs of wealth. The ordinary person probably doesn't have that.
No.
They aspire to have that.
Yeah.
And that can lead to it, and lead to being influenced and making the wrong decisions. And those decisions for a young person, unfortunately, could stay with them for life and have, detrimental effects with regards future employment.
They can't travel or anything, can they?
Travel, yeah. If you get a conviction in this country and it carries a 12-month prison sentence, bearing in mind you don't even have to serve a day, it could be a suspended sentence, or, you will not get a visa for Canada, America or Australia. So all of a sudden now, your world has become a very small place. You've eliminated those, and look at every fresher. J1, that's all they want to do for the summer. Get their J1 visa and go to America for 3 months this summer.
It's work with travel, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's lovely,
absolutely. It's lovely. Yeah, and
there's a holiday in it as well.
Yeah, 100%. And play your bit of sport over there. A lot of J lads going over there working. But if you have that drugs conviction, and I know, we're specifically talking about drugs tonight. It potentially could prevent you from getting into those places. Definitely the Americans won't give you a visa up in Dublin at immigration, up in Dublin airport, with your passport details.
Yeah, it's hard enough to get one without it.
It is, exactly. So, but again, look at young people, don't think of that, at 16, 17, when they're on a night out and they're offered a substance and peer pressure. And we'd often said it, and Bernard would agree with me, your first exposure to illegal substances is more than likely going to be from somebody a friend, and maybe you won't have to pay for it the first time or the second time. You get it on tick, but you'll have to pay for it at some stage. Somebody has to be paid for it.
There's carrier pigeons and all, isn't there?
There is, yeah. There is. Yeah.
People just get the drugs without paying for it because you carry it into the foundry from you or wherever you're going to do. It's part of the process, It's not just
it's just come into my mind there. It's actually a very easy to market a product when its usage is at good times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it?
And that's where I suppose the influence of social media comes in. And we see all these big music festivals. What's central to all of them? Your tablets, your pills, your ecstasy, your MDMA.
Yeah.
What do they call it? The love drug. It stimulates you. It enhances the music. It enhances imagery. And I suppose, look at the HSE have been very proactive in the last few years. We've all known the health festivals or the music festivals where they have the drugs amnesty, where you present your drugs for testing.
Oh yeah.
So there are advances, and again, you're going away from enforcement. It's a public health issue at this stage. It's not just the guards. It's the HSE. It's TUSLA. It's the local drug and alcohol task forces. It's the likes of yourselves giving us a platform tonight, dialogue, discussion. I think the day of clubs and sports clubs burying this issue and afraid to say, look, we have a problem in our club because it'll bring our club into disrepute, or, we get a bad image in Carlow because we're deemed to be a club that tolerates drug usage. And that's Bernard and I and Peter McConnon and the GA, we would have advocated against that. The supports are there, call it out for what it is. Because if we keep pushing these issues under the carpet, it's only going to grow. And who's it affecting? Our young people in our sports clubs. So there's huge responsibilities on club officials, on club executives, be it football, be it hurling, be it basketball, swimming, whatever sport it is.
You're not only managing the player, you're managing the welfare of the player as well, aren't you?
100%.
Yeah.
And that's the key word, welfare. And I know when I was speaking to you, Poppa, and I just said, look at a huge part of it. I know we'll touch on it later, and Bernard, from his personal experience, the supports. It's very easy to cast somebody aside. If you have a young player, and for one reason or another, maybe anxiety, maybe things aren't going well, and they fall into that trap, to throw them to the wolves, I think, is unfair. Grand, if they're caught, there will be consequences, but just don't cast them aside.
No.
Don't judge them and I think that's where the supports come in. And clubs have to support the young person or any player that might just get into difficulty and just might have an addiction. There are pathways there, signpost them. Just don't, it's very easy to say, we don't want you.
Cast them off,
That's right. I presume getting caught with something is a bad feeling as it is, but then being thrown aside the big bad wolf and no one wants to know you anymore, that's even worse.
Look at, obviously clubs do have to protect themselves and they do have to take action. And I know the GA have a very, very rigid substance abuse policy. I'm sure soccer clubs now have them as well, and we would always advocate, dust it down. at an executive meeting every month, pull out your substance misuse policy, because you will have to refer to it at some stage, and it gives you cover. What do I do if a club member, if an official, if a coach, it's coaching staff as well, it's not just the players. If we see something in our club that we don't like, maybe it's stealing, maybe it's just usage, what do we do as a club?
Yeah,
What's open to us?
It can't be guesswork, can it?
No. There has to be a procedure. There has to be
Mm.
protocols.
It will be common for clubs to sweep under the carpet though, because image is everything, right?
Well, there's probably an embarrassment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm lucky enough. This is my 30th year coaching. It's a long time.
Wow.
Took me first club in O'Hanlon's because no one wanted them. An under 14 team. True story. And I got my probably addiction over the years was alcohol. I love a pint.
Yeah.
But the younger generation coming, they're flooded with drugs, unfortunately. And if I go in the morning and I coach a team, any team, and there's 25 or 28 lads on the panel, I'm being generous here now, there's probably 15 of them regular cocaine users. That's how we're the number one users of cocaine in Europe. Ireland is.
Wow.
2024, we had around just under 14,000 people seeking help for addiction.
Sorry, how many did you say?
14,000, just under it. A third of those were repeats. People had been in already and relapsed.
Yeah.
So a third of those were that. In the last 5 years, cocaine addiction has gone 400% in the female population usage. So there's an epidemic of it. And like when we talk at the meetings, as I'd call them, or whatever we organise, like I'm just trying to express the dangers of drug use and the pitfalls of where someone can become addicted and when they become addicted, because we know that most of them are using it. So people go Saturday night and have their lines of coke and they get up Monday and they go to work and whatever. That's their own business. The drug dealers, that's their own business. That's his job, right? Yeah. But my job is just to explain to people the pitfalls of a young person and how it can get into a daily habit, which it happens, and how then the daily habit becomes a debt and the intimidation that comes with that and the consequences comes with that. They can't hold down their jobs, their marriages break up, their relationships break up. I've seen people become homeless over it. I've seen people committing suicide over it. There's loads of pitfalls. I was very lucky that during the brothers' time in Coolmore, I met some great families over there. So what happens is they set up a family support every Monday night. Absolutely fantastic, because you get to share your stories with the other families. And it's kind of therapy in itself, which is brilliant. But out of the 20 people that done the 6 months with my brother, 4 are dead. And the other 16 have all relapsed. Every one of them.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's the stats. And that's how addictive a drug can be. And I was talking to a good friend of mine lately. He's involved with counselling, and he said it's poly drugs now. So most people going in for addiction now, it's an accumulation of a lot of drugs, whether it's alcohol, heroin, benzos, cocaine. So maybe 10 years ago they were treating people for a single drug. So you're going in because you're addicted to benzos. Now it's an accumulation of all of the addictions. And it's probably, when you see parents coming up to you after a meeting and they're telling you that their son is or daughter is involved with this and they're looking for advice and all, it's very hard, you can't tell them. I'll give you an example. A lady in a village there about 2 months ago came up to me. Her son owed 20,000, and she asked me straight out, should we pay the bill? I can't tell her to pay the bill or not pay the bill. Like, I'm not in a position to do that. Yeah. And Connor's not in a position to do that. Because if you tell her to pay the bill and she pays the bill and then they come back looking for more money, then she's ringing me, giving out to me.
Yeah.
Right? If you tell her not to pay the bill and they burn her house down, do you know what?
Oh, yeah, you should have told me to pay it.
Correct. So it's a very difficult position to be in. And I've tried on numerous occasions to get people into treatment. It's very hard to get people into treatment because there's that many seeking it. Very hard. And there's probably people who listen to this and say, oh, well, you're wrong. I've tried hard to get people in the last 12 months into places, and it's very, very difficult. I can send them to private places tomorrow if they have the money to pay. No problem. But most people that are caught up in this circle haven't got that kind of money to pay or to get their son or daughter treated. So it's a very vicious circle.
Is the recovery from a private to a public way more better? Like, is it better? You got your guaranteed recovery after a private one towards a public one.
I know a family paid €12,000 for their son to go into a private. And I'm not having to go at privates or public.
No. Yeah.
And on the way home, after he's doing his weeks, he pulled into Paulstown and met a drug dealer for drugs. The addiction had that much pull. So whether it's public or private, I don't think it matters. It's down to the individual himself.
You have to want it.
Yeah, and I suppose there's an old saying we often say, you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink of it. And sometimes it's peer pressure from the individual, the addict, to go into treatment from loved ones, obviously, because they're concerned, whether it be brothers or sisters or parents or partners or whatever. But that addict is going in for the wrong reason. It's because someone else wants him to go in. The addict has to want to go in himself. Do you know?
Yeah.
But it's the long-term aspect of it that, the addiction is constantly there.
You're talking about the recovery, long-termers in recovery.
Yeah, it's massive. Okay. It's massive, I know Asherie does an 18-month programme. Coolmore does 6 months. And the 18-month programme seems to be more successful when you look at the stats on it.
But isn't it like a difficult journey to go through recovery, right? And then to step into a world where nothing's changed.
Yeah, when you come back out, what has changed?
What's changed?
Like the worrying, the big concern is the increase in cocaine usage. As Bernard gave you the stats there, we're seeing it on the streets. And I can tell you this, you deal with somebody, polydrug use is where somebody goes out and maybe smokes a joint, then has a line of cocaine and drink that night. You try to deal with somebody on the streets from a Garda perspective, 2:00 in the morning, that has cocaine in their system. Cocaine is a stimulant. It stimulates the central nervous system. It gives you a sense of machoism, a sense of energy. It's very difficult to deal with people like that, and particularly maybe if you have to arrest them for some reason. They get a false sense of strength, and it is very difficult to reason with them. It's very difficult to do anything with them. But some of the statistics there, I suppose Irish people by our nature, we've addictive personalities. Look at our addiction with alcohol down through for hundreds of years. Now we seem to get easily addicted to substances, cocaine, in particular, cannabis, MDMA. We just seem to have that, whatever genetics we have addictive personalities in Ireland. So the figures, like the number of people looking for treatment of cocaine, as Bernard said, it's frightening. And I suppose that's where kind of the drugs went out of the realm of just enforcement and being a Garda problem to harm reduction. It's gone in under the ambit of the Department of Health. It's about harm reduction. We all know that our mental health services are struggling at the moment. A lot of our services are struggling. So where do people go? Now, there is help out there, and there's fantastic places locally, that offer supports. Down in Aska Daycare Centre there, there's a family support group for drug addiction. We have Carlow Regional Youth Services operate one.
Lads playing pool in the window there. Yeah,
they offer fantastic services. We've our Drew up in St. Dimnus Hospital. And what you must remember as well, lads, is that for the last 26 or 7 years, we've a methadone clinic here in Carlow, up in St. Dimnus Hospital, which deals with people coming off heroin. Where you're given prescription methadone. I suppose. Look, at not every regional town has that facility.
But even support you called out there, I wasn't aware of 70% of them.
Yeah, and again,
You know?
yeah. And again, look, Bernard has more experience with that because he's been through it personally. But again, the player or the official or whoever, signpost them. Tell them, and all you can do, look at you, as Bernard said, if they don't want to go in, it has to be their choice, but signpost them. Say, look, we know you were caught last weekend or whatever. We know there's a court case pending. You're a good player. Look, we'll mind you. Don't repeat it. Look at here are, signpost them to the pathways, give them the Carlow Regional Youth Services number, the counselling service. Give them the number for Coonmire over in Athy. Give them the number for the family support service up in Aska Daycare Centre. Make them available. You can't make them go, but at least the club, exactly. Because look at nobody. I presume nobody wants to become addicted to a substance. Okay, so and it can come to anybody's door. Come here, just because I put on a uniform, I have a 20-year-old at home, it doesn't mean it won't come to my door. We know cocaine doesn't recognise social classes. It's across the board, professional people, and you have people that cannot hold down a job in the workplace without taking a line of cocaine or another substance just to get them through the day. And they mightn't recognise they have an addiction. They might hide it for a long time. It's probably more difficult to hide alcohol. Less difficult to hide alcohol. But sometimes it can be very easy to hide maybe a cocaine addiction, or something like that. And I suppose, look at speaking with the Garda hat on me as well, we speak a lot about cocaine, but in Ireland, the drug of choice for 19-year-olds and under is still weed, still cannabis. And there is conversations going on in this country about, legalising, decriminalising, and I won't go into that. I suppose from a Garda perspective, we go by, we don't make the law, we enforce it. So whatever the government bring in, as guards, that's what we do. But I can say, and I'm not a drug expert. I have spent time on the drugs unit. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a counsellor, and they might argue with me. I know Bernard will agree with me, but this. And I'd seen it from 31 years on the ground, this, I won't say myth, but this perception that cannabis is not a gateway drug. Personally, I don't buy that. I have dealt with people that from when they were 17 years of age started out smoking a bit of weed, and 15, 16, 17 years later, those same people, I'm still dealing with them here, they now suffer from psychotic episodes. And it's from the habitual use of cannabis over prolonged. I'm not talking about a year or 2 or 3 or 4. I'm talking about 10, 15, 20 years. And people would say, sure, what harm does it do? It relaxes me. I suffer a bit from anxiety. So that may be it. And it could, but prolonged habitual use over a period of time, because I've seen it. And it does. We are dealing with those people now because they're psychotic episodes on a daily and a weekly basis. The ambulance are being called. We're being called, and these were the guys, unfortunately, that started off maybe smoking a joint. So this thing, just from personal experience, that softer drugs don't lead on. They don't always, but a lot of the time, they certainly. That's in my opinion, and I think you'd.
Yeah, 100% sure. Even my own brother, that was his first drug, he'd tell you. He was 14 in the Workman's Club playing snooker. And he started smoking it then. He got Player of the Year with the O'Hanlon's under 14s in goal that year. I think Neddy Thompson was involved with the team. Someone has a video of it somewhere. I must try and see, can I find it? Player of the Year. And 3 years later, he wasn't playing any sport. So that's the effect it had on him, But he'd tell you that himself. So definitely, I'm definitely 100% with what Conor's saying. It is a gateway for people, and the research has shown that when they're talking to people in addiction, that's normally where to start. With it. Leilal Healthcare done a survey there recently in the workplace, and I was quite surprised at the result of that. 1 in 5 people in the workplace admitted to cocaine use regularly. 1 in 5, which is massive, and out of that, that's 20% of the workforce. You could probably throw another 20%, but we're afraid to put down the answer.
Yeah.
So there is an epidemic. But again, my angle is to let people know the pitfalls. and try and educate them. And if they do feel they have a problem, to try and get something within the GA. That's what we're aiming to do. That the GA players themselves, I know they have the GPA and all that kind of stuff, but a specific, centre or hotline that we can say, listen, we'll get you sorted
Locally?
That's what we're trying to at the moment.
That's
within
a great idea,
Croke Park, but we're just trying to get something because I'm heavily invested in the GA.
Yeah.
But whether it's the GA or whether it's soccer or basketball, anything, it's across the board.
Absolutely.
But I'm just concerned about what I'm involved with. And that's what we're looking at long term, hopefully. Kilkenny ran out the same programme as us. It was very well received down there. And we're hoping the campaign that we started will be ran around the country when we get knocking the proper doors in Croke Park, which in fairness, they're opening the doors and listening. So we're very pleased with that.
Well, I suppose it is something that they can't ignore, right?
100%.
Because and the whole thing of image and shame, like that's going out the window. Like when you're in an epidemic, as you've just said 3 or 4 times there, like all that stuff goes out the window.
Yeah.
Like, how are you received when you go to these places to do these seminars?
Very positive. The clubs, actually, when we did a few, the clubs came to us looking for us when word got out what we were actually presenting. And like, we weren't lecturing clubs, we were just advising them. We used to bring the GA, the generic substance abuse policy with us and go through it and tell every club executive and every club, you need this, lads. You need to be talking about this. You need to have this ratified. Everybody that registers at the 1st of January to join your club, they need to sign that they're aware that Palatine or Grey Colin or whoever have a substance abuse misuse policy in place for that club, because it's a safeguard. Because the day that something happens in the club, you can revert back to your policy. And as you said, Poppa, the procedure and everything now has to be documented. But even practical things, we'll take any club, and the club chairman or secretary goes into the dressing rooms after a match and he finds a substance. A lot of the time, maybe they don't know what it is. What do you do with it? So we give practical advice. The thing you don't do with it is flush it down the toilet or bring it home in your own car. And people would say, well, and one instance we won't name, but a chairman thought he was doing the right thing, found something he knew, wasn't 100% sure what it was, but knew it was some sort of an illegal substance. Yeah. So, look, he said, rather than leave it on the club grounds, he'd bring it home. That's grand, put it into the car, drove home, that's fine. What happens if he stopped at the Garda checkpoint?
Sure, he's possession.
Correct. It's simple possession. You're breaking the law because now he's a controlled substance.
But there's no one to believe him to say, sure, I was only doing a good turn.
Spread him.
So like it but and again, look, it's doing it for the right reasons. But it's just to get people thinking. What do you do? Number one, you get a second official, club official in with you. You look at it, you document it, you secure it on the club premises, and then you ring the guards. You bring it to your club executive, you let the club know, let the chairman know. But if in doubt, ring your local guards and we'll tell you what to do with it. And we may very well say, look, secure it there, we'll come out and collect it. Or look, bring it in to us, but you've our consent in to actually.
Right.
But just don't bring it home and forget about it, or forget about it in the car for the right reasons. And look, we know, as Bernard said, a lot of clubs, they don't want to be recognised as having an issue. So a lot of the time, as you said, Podge, it's just swept under the carpet. Yeah. The more we do that, the more acceptable it becomes, the bigger the problem we'll get. And all of a sudden, then you're at a place where maybe there's no going back.
Well, sorry to go across. I think the fact that the more that you can promote the insights you have and how understanding you have close to the bone for you and you from being, a guard. Like, I think the fact that once people see that that's out there, and hold on, lads are doing stuff about this. Rather than, we know what it is, we know what it is. But see, I just want to go back to the process and that in GA clubs. It's probably as important as having a defibrillator as having a process of that in every club, isn't it?
Put it like this, I think you'll probably use the drugs misuse policy
more
than you'll use.
That's definitely why it's more important then, right?
It's in my opinion, it's vital. And again, it's player welfare. And I just go back, do you remember there a couple of years ago, football minor was under 18.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, they changed it to under 17.
17,
okay. So a 17-year-old then, maybe a 17-year-old that wasn't eligible to play minor, they were just over age. What did we do with them? We now put them into an adult environment. They're still 17. In the eyes of the law, they're a juvenile. We've now put a 17-year-old into an adult environment. You are hoping and depending, like they're impressionable, they're young. They go away, and we give examples of it. They go away in a team bonding event with the senior team or the junior team. They're going away with adults. You have a child now going with adults. You are depending on the senior players to show a good example. What if one of your players, takes an illegal substance, and you've this impressionable young player looking up
Could
to
be a super footballer, the best on the team or something.
and a lot of times they could well be the high performers, because the stress of been keeping that performance levels. They might be on a substance or some sort of a performance enhancing drug, and you've now your child looking at them and saying, well, geez, he played out of his skin and he's taking a chance at. So
See what it's like.
Yeah. So, but so that's why I'm glad that minor football now, or minor hurling within the GA has gone back to 18s.
Football following the same suit, is it good to you?
It's up to each in the county board.
Yeah,
each
at
individual county
club
board.
level it's under 18. At county level it's still under 17.
Okay.
But it's that policy. Now I'm sure that most clubs and organisations now have some sort of a policy that they follow.
Well, it's like I said, it's as important now as having a defibrillator or a first aid
The
kit.
big thing is positive support. We're not. I suppose what kind of gets under my skin, and over the years I've seen it, and it upsets me in a way. People describe these people as junkies and scumbags.
Yeah.
And their words, that just drives me insane, because they're someone's brother or sister.
Correct.
There could be a mother or father. They're a daughter or a son of somebody. They're human beings. And I describe addiction as a disease, and it's a disease that can be treated. So why not within the GA put in proper doors that can be opened to treat these?
Correct.
So if someone has a problem, it's like that program we watched myself and the wife at New Amsterdam. How can we help? It's very simple. It's a simple, someone comes to you, and instead of throwing them under the bus, how are you in debt, or why are you taking this, or whatever, right? How can we help you? And that's what the family members should be doing, not throwing them. I know people that had to pay back money and the family won't talk to them anymore. They're under enough stress as it is.
Yeah.
Without, blackening them or,
But that comes back to culture. That's an Irish thing. That's a parochial thing. So that's Mary has an issue with her son, but her neighbour Jane, if she finds out about it, Mary won't be allowed going to church anymore.
Well, you see, I have a great statement, and I've said this. I can guarantee you, this is a fact. There's no family in Ireland can throw stones. We're all in glass houses. Everybody somewhere knows someone.
Yeah, but Bernard,
and that's how prevalent it is.
No, I agree 100%. But it's down to imagery and parochialism.
Well, they're living in cuckoo land.
They are, but that's why they are. So they're trying to promote a squeaky clean image of 2.4 kids, the picket fence were brilliant, 9 to 5 job.
No.
We go to Lanzarote twice a year, it's great.
Doesn't work
No.
It doesn't. And look at it, as I said, that the reason I give up my time for it all is because that's our aim, is to be able to help people. And the more you talk about it, and the more you're able to, talk to parents and everything,
Get out there.
and get them even looking for pitfalls.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a great story one time, Conor, maybe you might share, was it the guy who was in his computer room, never left the room, got the DHL, or was it?
Yeah.
Like amazing. You think your son is in the sitting room or in the bedroom, you think he's safe. You think this is amazing.
I suppose this image that you meet your drug dealer down on Tulla Street on a dark night with €20 and you pass it over and you hope that he won't kick the living out of you. That whole landscape has changed with the internet. We know, drug dealing now has been done through phones, through Snapchat. It was publicised there an instance a couple of years ago in Dublin where a 16-year-old was able to order, I think, over nearly €600,000 worth of ecstasy from the bedroom, delivered in the post through the postal services. So again,
built up over time.
Yeah.
This was the next parcel was that.
And with Bitcoin and this, that, and the other. So from a law enforcement, it's drugs. It's difficult. They're difficult to detect. It's I spent time on a drugs unit years ago here in Carlow myself. It's difficult work. It's dirty work. Not every guard is cut out for it. But back then there was no internet. There was no. Now things have moved on. You know, you can buy anything now over the internet, get it delivered to the house.
Crazy
So
story,
you're
yeah.
not putting yourself in danger. You're not having to meet
That's
face to face your dealer, your supplier. But can I just go back to something there,
Of course.
Podge? You touched on something there about culture, and we've all been playing sports years ago. The culture and the mindset I think that we need to change within all clubs, be it soccer, whatever. You win a cup, what you do? You come back to the clubhouse or you go into the pub, and what you put in the cup? You fill it with alcohol.
Yeah.
We've all done it. We've all been there. So like, it's a cultural change. That's what we did. That's what we did since time began. GA soccer, where you won, you came back, you filled the cup, you had it.
Great days, Poppa, weren't it?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
I
that
suppose
was Halloween all over again.
we'd be encouraging, and it's not to be killjoys. It's not just because I'm a guard, or it's not. But if we promote that sort of culture, like years ago, you know, you could buy cigarettes in GA clubs, soccer clubs.
Yeah.
That's gone now. You know, so why not bring it to the next step?
Yeah.
Why? It sounds like a killjoy. You know, bringing the under 16 or the under 14 team back to the clubhouse, to the bar, to a pub to celebrate.
Culture, isn't it?
They're going to be
Yeah.
subjected.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
It is.
hard
It is
to
hard.
change
Pod.
that.
It is hard. But
What's the
now,
alternative?
what's the alternative?
The only
You're
thing-
exposing them then to other stuff that they might see.
Yeah, I hear you.
And you're starting them young at that
Yeah.
exposure. And it's difficult. I agree, but we need to start talking about it. And I suppose even giving us the platform here just to talk about that. And they'll say, "Geez, Conor Egan's an awful killjoy there," and Jesus, you know, but.
But Conor,
It's difficult.
you're 30 years coaching, right? Coaching longer than me. I'm probably 20 years coaching. Oh, you coaching a few months.
Never won anything in 30 years now, Podge.
Yeah, it did. You won a championship at Fenner.
Win a man's role, he's a great lad now, look.
But I've definitely noticed, even when I played a bit of junior B soccer back in the day, or junior soccer back in the day, it was pub straight away. Win or lose, you lose.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, Bernard, but I see kids now, like it's very hard to get them to go celebrate now. Because I think there is a small...
There's a big change with the younger people.
Yeah.
I think it's on the top of the hill and it's about to
Yeah.
start going to the point where we're not going to pubs anymore.
I think you're right. A lot of young people now, they're body conscious. You know, they're in the gym. Girls,
Sounds
boys
myself.
and girls. Yeah, you'd like, yeah, I know you can, yeah.
An advertisement.
So, there is amongst young people, definitely, and it's great to see, like the nightlife in Carlow, all over Ireland, is practically non-existent now. And I know COVID had a lot to do with that. But, like, young people can get a lot of bad press. I'm dealing with young people for 30 years. Young people are marvellous. And they are getting more and more responsible. Third level students in SCTU, gone is the day where they're going out getting absolutely pissed every night, fighting. It's gone. And again, they're more body conscious. But again, go back to, and just a little bit fearful of this, go back to your cocaine epidemic. Why is the sports person, boy or girl, man or woman, why are they taking cocaine on a Saturday night? Two reasons. Okay, they're all body conscious. They're all watching the weight. You really won't put on, you know, conditional
diet.
weight with cocaine. You'll probably
You're all right, bud. You weren't around.
you'll probably be the best trainer on Monday night.
Yeah.
Okay. You take some 8 or 9 pints of alcohol on the Saturday night. Chances are 3 or 4 laps of the pitch on the Monday night. You're heaving. You're under pressure. You're sweating. So you'll put on weight with the cocaine or with the alcohol. So I suppose we're seeing more people. Cocaine is attractive because of that. The spirits, the vodkas and stuff, you won't put on as much calories as weight. And all these people, they're all now watching, you know, it's all beep tests and stuff, you know. So whilst it is positive to see that, you know, mindset change, I just hope they're not substituting alcohol with other things.
I actually hope that it's not a case of, because you know in society things go in circles, right? Be it fashion, be it music, be it whatever. I hope it's not something that is coming around again. Do you understand me? So at the minute you have a demographic of say 16 to 24 where people want to be fit,
Ripped,
look
yeah.
well ripped.
yeah.
Like I actually hope that's a cultural shift and not a societal thing where that'll be gone in 3 or 4 years and we'll be going back to where we are. Like, is that something that from a Garda perspective that you would look at or try and prevent or say, well, now we're in this position, how do we keep this here?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, and we referenced it, is social media influence, the TikToks and stuff. Young people are influenced by that. They're looking at the sculpted bodies. They're looking at all this.
There's
they want
some
that.
Some gyms are busier than pubs.
Oh yeah,
There's no doubt.
There's no
yeah.
doubt about
Oh
it.
yeah, the pub. Yeah, absolutely. There's no, and that is great to see. So as you said, how do we harness that, and how do we prevent falling back into that old thing again? And but then the statistics will say when Bernard gave them 14,000 people seeking treatment this year,
That's outrageous.
400% increase in females since 2017 seeking treatment for cocaine. They are worrying figures.
Yeah.
So it's look at, there's the drugs trade is lucrative. There is money to be made, but anybody that takes a line of cocaine in any place on a Saturday night, you cannot absolve yourself from what's happening in gangland, in feeding into it.
Trafficking.
Trafficking. You might think, sure, what harm am I doing down in Carlow taking 50 bag of cocaine on a Saturday night? You cannot wash your hands. You cannot stand back and say, well, I'm not part of the bigger societal issue. You're part of it. You're feeding into it.
Yeah, this is only a weekend thing for me. It's not.
Correct. But all of a sudden, though, Poppa, particularly with cocaine, the dependency levels, granted, it starts out as a weekend, then it's every weekend.
Yeah.
Then it becomes Friday, Saturday and Sunday night. And then all of a sudden it's 5 days a week and it sneaks into your job.
I remember being in Scraggs and I worked in Scraggs. Scraggs was a busy pub in Leinster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see it snowballing in there.
Yeah.
Like it was as simple when I 2001 or 2 for 9 years, and it was a simple thing as just putting petroleum jelly in the cistern tank.
That's right, yeah.
Vaseline, like.
They won't do that.
Yeah.
That's the hidden doing it.
Yeah.
Now you walk into a toilet and that is do it off a key.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like they're proud to do it.
I suppose it's seen
It's crazy how
as acceptable. It's recreational. It's acceptable.
But there was minimal lads carrying drugs then as well.
Yeah.
So the lad that you catch doing drugs in the toilet, no trouble whatsoever. He wants no attention drawn to himself. He'd walk out that door. Sorry about that, lads. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And he's just gone out through the door where a lad is being bowled wants to fight. He's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the extremely worrying thing, lads, is that it's acceptable. That's the extremely worrying thing. Because if it is the norm, it's very hard to prevent. That's what I mean.
It is the norm. And even that figure I gave you about treatment, that's people that want to go into treatment. There's probably the same again that are probably trying to self-treat themselves. I'm going to give up this.
Yeah.
They don't want to seek help. So there's thousands upon thousands of people. But I suppose my fear is the guy that, or the girl that starts off at a Saturday night. And it's prevalent. We know it's there. So let's not bury your head in the sands, right? We know it's there. But as Conor alluded to, it's midweek. So she's sitting at home with her boyfriend and Coronation Street is on at 7:30 and the kids are in bed at 8 o'clock and the next thing the call comes out. And I know people, this is happening. So now all of a sudden, it's catch-up time and it's 4 or 5 nights a week. And they're the people that at some stage are going to put down the hammer and say, listen, we need to get ourselves sorted. And that's what we want to do. We want to help them. It's very simple.
Yeah.
And we need to get the proper supports set up. And in fairness to Jennifer Renee, the TD, I spoke to her about this and she's on board for this. So we're really, really working hard to try and get something for Carlow.
Brilliant.
We're proud Carlow people. I am.
For sure.
We all are.
Yeah.
But, we want to help them. It ain't going away. Let's not kid ourselves. Like you're on about a circle.
Yeah.
The circle isn't going away. It's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
So we have to have the facilities to help people. And that's where I'm coming from. As a person with someone with addiction in my family, I understand the help that they need. I understand what they want to seek. And that's what it's about. It's about helping people and getting the proper doors, being able to be open for these people that need help. There's thousands of them out there. Yeah, we need to do that.
100%.
And we're a mile behind. The government is a mile behind on it. A mile behind.
I think we need to look at the factors why. Why do people resort to drugs. Like, we know there's a lot of anxiety out there. We know there's a lot of depression. We know there's a lot of people, carrying some, mental struggles. Are the supports there for those people before they go on to the next step?
Is that a common excuse when you arrest someone?
Yeah, the
Anxiety and depression.
and look at it. It probably is genuine. Like a lot of young people, if they see no opportunity, if they're disenfranchised with the establishment,
Right.
with the guards, we're the enemy, and then all of a sudden it becomes kind of them and us. But you have to go back to the root problems or the socioeconomic problems. I think we need to look at those as well. It's all very well, enforcement and stuff, but why? Why are people turning to drugs?
That's a massive.
It's massive. It is. But and I think that's why it went away from the guards again, and it's kind of a multi-agency approach now under the guidance of health, because it all stems back to the health and stuff. And look, we're all not lucky enough to be, to have a good start in life. We're not all from affluent parts. So you have to look at other factors as well, besides just they have an addiction. I think, and again, it's a massive society.
But it would have been area and upbringing is what you would have been told probably back in the day. That area, the family isn't great.
Back in the day, no prospects, lack of opportunity, disillusionment, but now
that's not true.
Not certainly not when it comes to cocaine.
I'd probably disagree with that, because I think cocaine itself, I don't think it has any boundaries.
No.
When I was in Coolmore, I had the privilege of meeting two doctors. They were in their 64 mark, and it was their son's third time in treatment, and he was 45. So I'm sure money wasn't a problem, or resources to get this young man help. So it has no boundaries. And I suppose the worry I'd have just talking to people in general is the fentanyl. They're mixing the fentanyl in with cocaine now, which is a massive addictive substance. That's a concern. And speaking to people that speak to me regularly about this, crack cocaine, fast forward 5 years, this is a serious substance.
That's the rock you smoke.
And this is going to cause massive problems.
Is that coming?
It's here.
Wow.
Oh, it's here, is it?
100%.
Is that fentanyl? Is that the painkiller?
Yeah, it's I think 4 or 5 times stronger
I watched a documentary on it.
than heroin. The documentaries you see what's happening in parts of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
in America,
yes.
They're like the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
That's fentanyl. That's
Right,
what
okay.
President Trump, he keeps on about fentanyl and stopping the supply of it in. It is in Ireland, but not to that. It would not to that extent. Wouldn't be an issue with fentanyl in Carlow by any stretch of the imagination. But look, at the chances are, it's something that we have to keep on the radar.
They're only brought into Grod, all right.
It will.
The fact they're mixing it up, it's not good long term.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, go back to what I said. You talk about drug addiction in the 70s and 80s, early 90s. It's big cities, big towns. It catches on the travels.
Yeah.
So something that comes in now is going to catch on travel.
100%.
Yeah. And drugs is no longer, as you said, it's no longer confined to the urban areas. It's in every village, in every club, in every school.
Every nook and cranny.
It really is. It really is, because drugs now are so accessible. Like the drugs, cocaine, cannabis, ecstasy, ketamine. Like it's so accessible now in any part of Ireland, just the way it is. You can order it on your phone. You will know where to get it. You will know where to get it within 5 minutes of wherever you are. And that is how accessible it is. And as long as it's that accessible, it will continue to be an issue. And I suppose that's where our operations come in, our intelligence. You hear them every night of the week. The drugs and our organised crime unit doing unbelievable work. Our local drugs unit here, we've 4 or 5 very active young guards in that. Again, you have to have enforcement, and with that, then people will get caught, and the consequences. Like if you're caught with enough drugs for sale and supply, you are going to court. There is no caution for that. There is no other way around that.
You're breaking law.
You're breaking the law.
Law.
Look, we talk about the simple possession, the personal, the €20 bag of weed. Like the conversations are being had in this country. If you're over 18 now and you're caught with cannabis, only cannabis for your own personal use, first time offender, never featured before, you're now entitled to an adult caution for that to keep you out of the court system.
Right.
So you don't get a conviction, because otherwise the courts would be. But however, you're caught the following week with another €20 bag of cannabis, your chance is gone. You've expended your adult caution. You go to court now. So it's just, look, we all make mistakes. We're all human, but it just gives that person the chance. But that is only with cannabis. If you're caught with cocaine, it's an automatic
first time
court
offence.
appearance.
That's it.
Yes.
So are you saying first time offence of cannabis isn't brought to court because of the volumes?
The volumes, and just to give people a chance, you know, ultimately, because you know it is that prevalent out there, and you would hope that people would learn from it. They get their adult caution from the local superintendent, and you would hope, you know, that's it. That they've got the fright. It's the you know, and they re-look at themselves. But that's only if you're caught with cocaine, and again you get that conviction, and we go back to a drugs conviction. It's part of the HEED. The HEED is health, education, enforcement, and drug driving. But the enforcement, like a drugs conviction, stays with you for life. And if go back, all of us here with, you know, coaching, the soccer camps coming up in the summer now, the cool camps with the GA. Every 17, 18-year-old TYs, they want to be a coach. It's a few quid. If you need Garda vetting. You need Garda vetting now for nearly everything in this country.
Yep.
For work, for everything. If you're working with vulnerable persons or children, you need Garda vetting for everything. If you have
every 3 years now, isn't it?
Pardon?
As well? You have to get renewed.
It used to be every 5 years, and it's every 3 years now. If you require Garda vetting, if you have a drugs conviction, it's coming back in your Garda vetting. And do you want Conor Egan, who has a drugs conviction, coaching in Palatine or New Oak or wherever? The club, they won't want you because you have a drugs conviction. So, you know, you're narrowing your opportunities for employment, and that stays with you for life. So they're the consequences that people don't think of. Your visas, your travels, your J1s, and young people on a night out, they're not thinking ahead because, you know, the nature of young people, they're in the moment.
You're a drug test the next day on the road.
Yes.
How long does the drug test stay in your system?
Yeah, a very good question.
I have it down there. I was going to ask. Thanks, Poppa.
Yeah, he's got in. Yeah,
He's robbing your notes.
We can cover it there now. I suppose up to a few years ago, you know, at the roadside, we tested for alcohol. You know, you were breath tested. You got the bag, as they used to say years ago. In the last number of years, we can now test for drugs at the roadside. We call them mandatory intoxicant testing checkpoints, MITs. Okay, so a superintendent in Carlow can designate any road, any place, any townsland for a MIT checkpoint, morning, noon, or night, which in essence means that any motorist that drives into that checkpoint can be tested. So the test is very simple.
Poppa, you want to take it there after your weekend? When the weekend?
Benji's over the limit alcohol. 3 days after.
That is the little device there. We can take an oral fluid sample from you at the roadside. Just
a swab?
Yeah, like the COVID test, a swab. And within a couple of minutes, that little device will indicate whether you have the presence of 4 substances in your system: cocaine, cannabis, opiates, which is your heroin, or benzodiazepines. If you fail that, you're arrested, you're brought back to the Garda station, and a blood sample is taken from you. That blood sample is then forwarded up to the Medical Bureau of Road Safety, but not only will they check it for those 4 substances, they will also check it screen it for a multiple of other controlled substances, your amphetamines, your methamphetamines, your MDMA, and if your blood sample comes back from the Medical Bureau and says, yeah, you've cannabis, or whatever, you're going to court.
What's the time frame there?
Time frame, okay. For cannabis, in about, between 2 and 4 days in saliva, and in urine about 4 days.
Okay.
So 4 days later, your urine sample will show cannabis in it. If you're a habitual cannabis user using it the whole time, smoking it and taking it regularly, up to 30 days it'll remain in your system. So basically, if you drive into a checkpoint and you're a habitual cannabis user,
You're over it.
you're going to flag on that. It's going to come
And it's
back.
just a swab in your mouth, is it?
Swab in your mouth. It's going to come back positive. The other thing then is with cocaine, again, 2 to 4 days in your system. So your line of cocaine on a Saturday night, you're going to a match Sunday morning, you're going to training, and you drive into a mid-checkpoint and you're tested, you're going to fail it. The consequences then of a conviction, of going to court and getting a conviction for drug driving, there's a fine, there is penalty points, there's a disqualification. So now all of a sudden, how'd you get to
Depends
training?
on your career as well, because
Your job.
drive for a living, so it's double the sentence.
Yeah.
I'd
Your
be gone
career,
off.
but
I'd
your
lose the job,
training. How'd you go to the match?
Yeah.
You know, go back to the sports setting. Okay, the embarrassment in your club, the senior player, and now all of a sudden he's facing a drugs conviction for drug driving. And last year in 2024, 3,200 people were prosecuted for drug driving. That is a massive amount. There was about 7,000 done in total, so it's about half and half. Like it
And
probably
is that figure massive towards the previous
yeah,
year?
it is. Yeah, it's growing every year, unfortunately. So
So it's even with the alcohol at the moment, is it?
it's and look, in my opinion, it probably is going to surpass alcohol. It's frightening. And like
Jesus
forget about sport and like if your driving is impaired because of any of those substances, the responsibility to yourself, to your family, to other road users. That's why it's zero tolerance when it comes to drink or drug driving. It has to be. It has to be. But your players, we mightn't catch everybody that's taking drugs. I can guarantee you, you need to be very, very lucky to escape a mid-checkpoint
You get the
indefinitely. They're more and more. We are putting out more and more mid-checkpoints, the roads policing unit, the regular unit. So, and it's well advertised. Every bank holiday weekend, the lifesaver offences, we're out there and we're telling people, but you'd be fearful, is the message getting through when we had 3,200 people last year?
Wow.
And more than half of them lads were under 30 years
So I
of
was
age.
going to ask you what's the
Well,
age.
yeah. More than half under 30 years of age.
Nearly all footballers, if they're active, yeah.
Correct. You're looking at the sports demographic. If
Massive. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
it is crazy. But again, you go back, education forums like this, a sporting forum like this, to get it out there
It's
into the
actually
sporting world.
Conveying the consequences
Yeah.
is what's probably most important for me thinking about it. So if you're sitting down, you're just after explaining what that process is, the time frame, turnaround, how it happens, right? So I went for an eye test today, right? And your one told me I'm short-sighted. To be fair to her, she was very good. You know what she said to me? Here's the consequence of you not wearing glasses. You could crash your car.
Yeah.
I'll take them glasses straight
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
When can I collect them?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a thing around addiction and drugs where, especially the younger age, don't understand what the consequences could potentially be.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a carefree attitude, sort of.
Look at it's young people. It's
So I
human
guarantee you,
nature.
no one knows about that process. No one knows about them 4 things that can be caught on that. No one knows about the time frames.
You probably think it's similar to alcohol.
It's back to education, isn't it?
Yeah.
Simple.
And that's what we like. I show that at the heat, at the Drugs Ruins Lives. Bernard is sick of seeing that now. I bring it with me, take it out of my pocket. I showed it to the 14, 15, 16-year-olds. They'll be doing their theory tests there, the TYs or the under 16 development squads. Next year, they'll be 17 entitled to do their theory test. Get the message out there that if you are driving impaired under the influence of drugs, the chances are at some stage, might get away. And I always say,
What's the length of ban for driving?
it depends. How
much is in your system, is it?
Yeah, it can be, again, people that fail or refuse to comply with our direction at the roadside, that's an automatic ban. So,
they don't want to go for a blood sample.
or they say, no, I'm not doing that. That's an automatic, you're arrested then for failure or refusal. But it's just when you break it down to somebody like that, the consequences, because look at young people, they like their cars, they like driving, but that is going to, I keep saying to people, if you're involved in the drugs game, you need to be looking the whole time. the guards only need to be lucky once.
There you are, yeah.
You know, that
Brilliant.
is
That's your motto. There's your campaign
look at
motto. Your slogan.
you know, and it might sound cruel, but
Bob Conor Egan, number one.
and look, that is the reality.
Yeah.
You probably are more than likely will get caught through the driving, and it's important to get that message out there.
I'd say, Conor, what's going to happen as well, myself, just from, just from being a normal person, not a guard, I'd say a lot of companies will end up bringing in
Brilliant.
testing.
Mm-hmm.
I know CIE for years have done it.
For the drink driving.
Yeah, and I think they brought in drug testing as well.
There's gone into the prison service now, random drug test.
So,
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see it more common because of the epidemic we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I suppose to break it down simply, you've Conor and his, counterparts doing their job. And then from our angle, we have, because of the GEA, we're heavily invested. Because people forget, the GEA is in every nook and corner of the country. Everywhere. So, it's in the middle, we're missing something, I think. And that's hopefully where we can step in and what we're trying to do. And, with the talks,
The awareness and
to
all this,
educate them and get them supports in, because, we want to keep our kids in sport.
Of course, yeah.
Which is the most important. And because of the epidemic, there will be slip-ups and things will happen. But it's how we react to that and how we can help our youth. And that's the angle I'm going, and that's what I'm about. And that's the most important for me.
At one of the seminars one night, a club member, he asked the GA lads that were with us, why isn't there random drug testing at club level in the GA? It's at inter-county level. Any inter-county player does random drug testing after a match up in Croke Park, or in Dr. Colin, you're playing with the Carlow jersey. There can be.
How does that work in regards of you don't know when he's going to be there?
No, it's random by
So you
nature.
just walk in,
provide a urine sample after the game or whatever. But it's not a club level. I'm not sure what way it works in soccer.
Nothing like that.
I'm not a writer.
Yeah,
No.
but
Well,
like,
never heard of anything like that. did you?
I know a GA club there a couple of years ago, a prominent GA club down in Tipperary. They voted for the introduction of drug testing at club level, not inter-county level, club level.
Did it close down?
I was going to say, you're probably dicing with a fine line there,
What's the consequence there? You might, no, fuck off, I'm not doing that.
I
You're not playing for the club anymore?
Well, every club
know what
has
I mean,
the
Bert?
opportunity to, with their own constitution. You're given the constitution from head office, but
Yeah.
you can, you can add or take
Tailor
from
it.
it within your committee.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to decide to
Yeah.
tailor it yourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
But I think it's the logistics of it, how, like hundreds of thousands of amateur players from every sporting organisation in the country. Is it feasible to drug test at club level? Be it basketball, be it swimming, be it cricket, whatever's club,
Well, I think this has to be, first of all, this has to be collaborative, right? This isn't about GAA, soccer, rugby, tennis,
Correct.
whatever. This has got to be collaborative.
Correct.
Question from Paddy Carroll, the other side of the window. Just sent in via WhatsApp.
Didn't see a window, but go on.
Yeah, just about. He wants to talk about the travelling, the consequences of travelling. I know you said you can't go to America or Australia without a conviction. What's the time frame there?
Can I
Yeah, of
just
course
tell
you
you a
can.
quick story just on that? About 20 years ago, this is a true story, 20 pounds worth of marijuana. Young man, no ties in Ireland or anything, and just, he said, I'm getting out of here. This genuinely happened.
Yeah.
So he goes to America. He meets a girl, he has kids, 2 kids. He's in New York, he's going down, his taillight is out. The local cop in New York stops him, looks him up. He's wanted in Ireland for a drug conviction. This is a true story. 20 quid's worth of marijuana. He's extradited. They're looking to bring him back to Ireland to serve and go before a judge for 20 pounds worth of marijuana. I don't know what the outcome was, Conor. He might tell you, but America wasn't going to let him back into his wife or kids.
Oh, yeah.
Over
For
20
€20.
Over 20 quid.
20 quid.
Because he was on the system as skip in Ireland, and there was a warrant out for his arrest for a drug conviction. They didn't know whether it was 200,000 or 20 quid.
Yeah, it's just a
But
drug
it was on the
conviction.
system. 20 years after he had left this country, and he's a whole new life in America. I'm not sure what the outcome was.
I don't know, but it made national media here a few years ago about that.
That happened.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
Wow.
that's right. Yeah.
So it's an amazing,
Yeah.
you know, and you'd feel for someone like that, you know, and that's what
you
I'm
would.
saying. And that's the angle I'm coming at. We, you know, we need to support.
Yeah.
People will make mistakes. There's no one perfect.
So if you limit yourself with any conviction, not irrespective of what conviction it is, as I said, if it carries a prison sentence in Ireland over 12 months, bearing in mind you don't have to serve a day, there are certain countries like America, Canada, Australia, there's probably others, you just won't get into them. Like they're strict, and all of a sudden now
Australia's very strict.
your world has become a very small place because you've limited where you can go.
At such a young age, right?
Yeah. There was an instance there a number of years ago. A couple came into a Garda station for a passport, came in January or February with their 2 kids for the holiday of a lifetime. They were going to Disneyland in Florida. And a few months later, they were going in June. I met the father, the husband or father. It wasn't in Carlow. Met him on the streets, and I said, "Geez, I thought you were meant to be in Florida, Disneyland." And his head dropped, and he said, ran into difficulty. He said, up in immigration in Dublin Airport, put in his passport. He had, from when he was 18, he had been involved in an assault. Now you've a couple of different types of assault. You have minor assault, and then you have Section 3 assault causing harm, which requires medical treatment. It was the second one, was the assault causing harm. So he got his conviction. He didn't serve any time. He got the fine or whatever, had to pay compensation. Had moved on, had forgotten about it. Like, he's 35 or 6 now. It happened when he was 18. Hadn't told his wife. So he's up in immigration, ready to go through it, and put in, called him aside. We can't let you in. You have a conviction for serious assault. His wife, devastated.
Yeah.
So he said
Family holiday
himself and his wife had to have the conversation up in Dublin Airport. Do you go on with the 2 kids to Florida? Do we all come home? What do we do? And eventually he said, yeah, you go with the 2 kids. And that's when I met him a few days later. Tears in his eyes. His wife, devastated. She didn't know that he had this conviction. Again, as
a better man than he was at 18.
Correct. A young fella made a silly mistake, but again, you know, your actions, the consequences. What in science, that for every action there's a reaction.
Yeah.
So, and like, little did he think at 18 on the streets. Look, it wasn't Carlow, but that engaging in that assault, that 15 years later, it would come back to affect him and his family. And he said it had a devastating effect on him. The embarrassment for his wife, his 2 little kids looking, why can't Daddy come? So go back to, you know, and that's, you know, that can be any conviction, not necessarily drugs, but assault. But again, young people in the heat of the moment, the heat of battle inside in a chip shop, you know, the machoism, you know, whatever, they're not thinking right, and all of a sudden they hit out or they do something silly. So I suppose that's why the juvenile liaison scheme is there, that any young person makes a mistake, if they're between 12 and 18, they're entitled to a caution, you know, depending on, for most things. They'll get 1 caution, they might get a second one. You won't get any more than that at that stage. Then you're probably looking at juvenile court at 2:30 on a Thursday here in Carlow. And again, excuse me, our whole objective is keeping young people out of court, keeping them safe, putting them on the right track. For the last 8 years, I'm gone into community policing. I was frontline for 25 years or 24 years on drugs units and stuff. The last few years of my service, I think, are best suited to education, be it on drugs, be it on assaults, be it on safer socialising, going into the schools, going into the freshers and for induction week in SCTU, going into the 17 and 14, 15-year-olds, the development squads, going into every GA club with Bernard and Peter McConnon and Jim Bulger on winter nights for the last 2.5 years, down to Ballymurphy, over to Clonmore. We've every GA club done. And it's because it's the right thing to do. It's to trying to educate and protect those young people from making that mistake. And if they do, then to say, look, we'll help you. This thing, you know, this fear of the guards, and, you know, maybe a young person has had a bad interaction with a guard. Maybe they were searched under the Misuse of Drugs Act on the street, and all of a sudden all guards are this and that and they're out to get us. I want to try and change that. You know, grant there are
Big
consequences.
task, all right.
It is a big task, but I think by, you know, going into them and not talking down to them and involving them.
Listening to them.
Listening to them and saying, yeah, Gard, I think you are heavy-handed. I think you are, searching us on the streets.
It's just an opinion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny you say that,
Yeah.
Podge, because after the meetings, it's funny, people want to talk to you after, some of them genuinely, serious cases.
Want to open up?
Well, they want to come to you, and just tell you their story maybe, and but it's amazing that you said that there's still that stigma with the Garda that they don't want to, which is okay, but there wouldn't be one meeting that I wouldn't do or one talk where I wouldn't have maybe 4 or 5 people, and they're hovering around waiting, and you just try and get to them, just have a cup of tea, and they have to air their problem, which is good, but again, I'm not in a professional capacity to advise them this way or the other, but even to listen to them, it's great to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But you
it's
can
off
still
their chest, isn't it?
Yeah.
but you can still see that, Conor, there's still
That grey area, right?
Yeah.
there's just that thing, unfortunately, which
I suppose at the end of the day, we are the only agency in the country that's charged with the enforcement of the drugs legislation.
Yeah.
Like, it's set in stone, the Misuse of Drugs Act 1977, that's our guiding act, that's what everything is centred on. And, the law is there, we have to enforce it, we do enforce it, and we make no apologies for that. But, it's not about throwing the book at anybody either. It's about helping them, and if they do make a mistake, you are going to be prosecuted. It's not going away, but work with the probation service. Go into get your counselling, get whatever you need to do. Be if it's an assault, get your anger management. I will tell people, look, this is what you need to do. Get yourself back right. Don't let this one incident define you. Don't let this define your whole life, and all of a sudden then I should have a conviction. I might as well go haywire.
Yeah.
Don't.
You want them on the green grass of the football field, don't you? Not on the steps of the
Come here,
court.
lads, as Bernard said, keep them involved, whatever sport. Not necessarily sport, be it music, be it art, be it their hobbies. There's a lot of fallout, particularly, look, you hear the statistics, young girls in particular, they reach 16, 17, and all of a sudden then maybe they drop away from sport and stuff. So how do you fill that? How do you encourage that? And I think, the camps, the soccer camps there, the cool camps where you see mixed young girls, boys, brilliant.
They're brilliant, yeah.
They're brilliant.
But it's impossible to police that without it being part of a campaign. So you can mind that demographic kids, right? Between, say, 6 and 12. You'd be hoping. Then they get to start their teenage life, to go into the later teenage life, adolescence, whatever. That's where that's where we have to be able to campaign and promote the prevention side of things. I just want to go back about the perception, because I find that interesting, right? About the perception of guards, right? Isn't it very funny that the perception of someone to keep you safe is negative? And I cannot get my head around that. And you know what it is? You pick up the phone, right? And you go on your Twitter or X, whatever it's called, or Facebook and Instagram. When do you ever see that and good said about a guard? It's always negative. Yeah. It's, the guard stopped me and found this to be boo. Fucking guards are always catching people. Fucking shit. I'm like, what's your fucking job, man? They're the good guys. Don't put in your boot.
It's the nature of the work that we do. But would you believe, like every company, every organisation has a mission statement. The Guards' mission statement is probably the shortest of any agency in the country. 3 words: keeping people safe. That's our mission statement. It's at the bottom of all our correspondence, our literature, our keeping people safe. And when I go into schools, particularly young kids, how many robbers did you catch today? How many things? But when you say my main job, and 90% of the Guards' job any day in Carlow, it's just keeping people safe. And that could be in a domestic situation, prevention, in a domestic situation, in a mental health. It's about keeping people safe. But sometimes they don't see that, and they say, bringing me to court or enforcing the law. Yeah. And that's where then, particularly young people, look, we've all done it. How many times have you threatened your kids, put on your seatbelt or the guards will arrest you? And we have to get away from that, in that the guards are actually there, because all of a sudden then your 5-year-old gets lost in and they're afraid to go up to the guard to say, I'm lost because Mammy and Daddy has said, the guard will arrest you.
big bad
We've all,
wolf,
I had
No,
it
you
when
can
I
laugh,
was
but it's
young.
the truth though, isn't
It's the
it?
truth.
Do you
So
know?
like, again, it's the whole
boogie
mindset
guard.
change. Yeah. Getting away from that. And instead of saying, well, look, if you ever get lost, go to the guard.
Yeah, that's
We're
where you
telling-
have to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't put on your seatbelt, the guard will arrest you.
Yeah.
And I stopped cars at the roadside and you would see young kids in the back of the car shaking.
Winston, yeah.
Terrifying.
Wincing because like
Like
I
that's
always
your
make-
haircut.
you know, so again, it's perception, and I suppose that's what I'm trying to do for the last 8 years. Myself and Esme, you'd all know Esme.
Yeah.
We're in and out of the schools, we're in and out of creches, national schools, the college, wherever we can go. Whoever wants to talk to us, we're willing to talk to them. And you know that perception, we're not, you know, grand. They wear a uniform, but they're not too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. We can talk to them.
Yeah.
Jeez, I got in trouble, and like Esme was very good like that because she was involved in soccer in Carlow.
Good player.
She
isn't
ref
she?
soccer. Everybody knew her. They were comfortable talking to her. And as Bernard said, like the number of people that come up to us after the Heed talks, it's incredible. Over the cup of tea, that's where business is done. They won't, very seldom they'll ask a question from the audience because they're wondering, geez, your man just go. Afterwards, Guard, Bernard, can I have a chat with you? You said something there at that meeting. Can we just explore that or take a number or give you a ring? Would you mind ringing me? And we've been asked to go back to revisit some clubs, you know. So like the positivity we got from it. And Carlow G are to be admired. They were the first to put their head above the parapet, Jim Bulger. Clubs came to him and said, Jim, we've an issue. And he said, right, we'll address it. Maybe Crow Park, I think, probably Scound initially, Bernard. Where
Yeah,
would you,
Well, I think they're happy with their own policies,
yeah.
Croke Park at the minute, but we're trying to change that. And in fairness, the fact that, you know, we've done a couple of talks in Tipperary, Kilkenny really took it on board. They had fantastic
They did.
nights down there. Carlow, we've everything done. I think bar 2 clubs, just dates didn't suit. But like overall, they had to be commended. Jim Bulger and especially Peter as well. He done a lot of work with that. So and hopefully it's something we can. The importance of it, you know, as I said earlier on, we can't stick our head in the sand. It's there. Okay, can we stop it? It's not my job to stop it. My job is to get the support there, and that's what we really want within the GA. But I agree 100% what you're saying, lads. It has to be on a broader spectrum in all sports. But at the minute, that's my drive, and that's what I'm aiming for.
Like the idea in my head straight away, as mental as my mind is, would be every club in Carlow has to have one representative from all, like every sporting club in Carlow, one representative. You deliver them the seminar, they go back to their clubs and deliver that seminar.
Yeah.
And create that kind of pyramid where
It's a brilliant idea, yeah.
this is just this is something that's happening, lads. And I want to ask you, said it earlier, like what's the end goal for it, Bernard? Is it like a helpline, a centre? Like what's the end goal for this?
What I would like is a like a hub where people can go, because I suppose we can talk about the addict all day, right? He affects or she affects 7 to 8 members of their family directly, not indirectly, directly, in one way, shape or another. So there's a massive domino effect from someone getting caught up in addiction. Massive. So it's important that all them systems are in place. And as I spoke earlier on about Coolmere, the family support over there, the families that came, I was there on my own, obviously, for the support of brother, okay? But the amount of families came with their brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers to those meetings. And it could be just a simple thing during the week, you know, but they offloaded and there was people there to listen to them. And Emer, who used to run it, I'm not sure if she's still there, but Emer was fantastic. And it was about an hour long. But it's not until it comes knocking at your door you realise the effects it has on the whole family.
How do you react to that though, Bernard, when it does come knocking at your door? Like what's I don't want you to mention anything, only your own personal experience, right?
Yeah.
Like when that comes knocking at your door and you're in a position where you're going to support your brother, like what's in your mind? Like what are you kind of saying?
Well, I suppose over the years, in the height of his addiction, you were always afraid at the knock at the door. And it was from the knock from the door I was afraid it was from the likes of Connor knocking it saying, look, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's at the back of your head, that's always there.
It's realistic though, isn't it?
Yeah. And that was,
That's very hard to harbour, Bernard.
how do you deal with that? Well,
Yeah.
I suppose, look at it, it's very simple for me. I have great faith and I always did. And that's me. So, but that's always a worry for me, that you're waiting for that knock, which is very, looking back on it, that's the worry.
I can't believe after using the word fate. I had a conversation, sorry to cut across you,
Yeah.
about 2 months ago with my wife, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about addiction and we're talking about suicide and things like that.
Yes.
And my wife said, a lot of this is down to people not having faith and not having a belief.
Possibly, yeah.
She's not talking about going and being a good,
Yeah.
go to the local fair baking apple tarts to give no outside. She's talking about having something. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah, well, I'd have great faith, genuinely. But that was always a worry over the years, that you're just talking about that. But the most peacefulest time I had ever in all his journey through addiction was that 6.5 months he done in Coolmirrah. My God, it was like turning on a light in a dark room, because I knew he was safe. I knew he was eating well. I knew he was going into recovery. And that period was, any family member will tell you, when they have someone in addiction, when they go into rehab, it's amazing. And I know that sounds silly, but it genuinely is a great time, because you can see light at the end of the tunnel. You can see
Progression from depression.
Yeah. And you see, and I've often expressed it as this in the talks, what drug addiction does to a person is it absolutely robs their soul. It's not the person. My brother is the most funniest, comicalest man you've ever met. The laugh you'd have with him is unbelievable. When he was in the height of addiction, that was zero. Didn't exist. His soul was gone. The person that I grew up with was gone. And that's the power of addiction.
That even hurts me listening to it now. I'm going to be honest.
But he's in work today with me.
Yeah, brilliant.
And he's a great man.
Yeah, brilliant.
And that's what I mean. And he's been to hell and back.
Yeah.
But he still has his addiction. He'll talk to you about it. He'll tell you about it. And every day is a different day. And it brings its all challenges. And that's what he has to do. But, it's in life great. He's there. There's so many of them. I remember Mick McTeague was one of the guys over there, the head counsellors, and he kind of ruled it very military in Coolmirrah. He was a funny individual, great character. So he was. Still alive, and he lives in Bagnestown somewhere. On the back of Mick's door, when he brought you into the office, now no one ever got into his office because he's military. But after a couple of months, he'd either like you or he didn't. And I'm probably a likeable old rogue. So he brought me into the office, right? And he closed the door. And you would not believe at the back of his door, there was little mass cards of everyone that had died in Coolmirrah. And his door was full of them. And he said to me, "Look at them, Bernard." And I looked at it, and I kind of got a bit of a shock.
I don't want my brother there.
Yeah.
And that's the fine line when it gets out of control. And it starts off of the Saturday night down the line, or it starts off as the young lad smoking the marijuana or the cannabis. And it doesn't happen to everyone, but there is a certain percentage that have an addictive personality.
Yep.
And that's the facilities at the moment are bursting with the seams. And if we can have any influence or can help anyone, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it more available, more easier for people. You have a parent of someone in addiction, why can't they go to a hub and have a cup of coffee with someone else that's there? And why not,
super idea.
Instead of, you used the word earlier on, people are embarrassed. What are you embarrassed about?
Yeah.
They didn't kill anyone. They're not murderers.
Yeah.
They're just caught in addiction. So let's help them as best we can.
Yeah.
As a community, let's come together.
I said at the very start, Podge, that when we give these talks, Grand, they listen to me, they listen to when Bernard talks, and you hear the way he spoke there, you'd hear a pin drop in the room, because it's personal. He's speaking from experience, and that it really brings it home. And you're down in a GA club to country people listening to that story, because they all know Bernard through the GA, and they hear him telling that story. That's real.
Well, it's not in a PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
It's not a Word document.
No, we don't. We don't choose PowerPoints.
It's a real life example. And
absolutely.
I genuinely think reality and real examples will bring prevention.
It does personalise it. And can I just touch on something there that go back to it ties in with the supports, but there is a real issue countrywide, nationwide in Carlow. Drugs-related intimidation. Bernard touched on it there. It is an issue. We do know that it is probably one of the more unreported issues. People do not report it. out of fear, predominantly, if I report, okay? And we know that, from experience, that families are being subjected to drugs intimidation because their son or daughter owes a drugs debt. And I'm not talking about thousands. You could be talking of €200 or €300. And Podge, you haven't the means to pay that, but your parents might. So the knock comes on your parents' door. Podge can't pay it. It's now your drugs debt. Next Friday evening, we want whatever. That is real. People don't report it out of fear. People are probably paying that. And often people would, they might ring or ask me, Garge, should I pay drugs debt? As Bernard said, I can't say yes or no because, that's our policy. We don't say, we can offer supports. You pay drugs debt, you're not getting a receipt. It's not like when you go into Tesco's and you buy.
Unfortunately, there's a consequence either way.
There can be.
Yes, Paul.
And yeah. And that is why a number of weeks ago, our own Minister, Jennifer Murnane O'Connor, she launched, because she's a portfolio now for drugs in the Ministry of Health, she launched the DRIVE initiative, the Drugs Related Intimidation and Violence Engagement, which is a fantastic initiative. And again, it's a multi-agency approach. It's not just, so it's the HSE, the Department of Health, Department of Justice,
Collaborative.
Probation, collaborative, as you were going back to. And I suppose where we come into it is if somebody in Carlow, a family, is being subjected to drugs intimidation, we now have a designated trained Garda inspector for our division that they can make contact with confidentially. He's trained. It doesn't mean going to court. So basically what they will do is he will meet that person at a location, securely, safe location, wherever it may be. He'll give practical advice. And it could be just something simple as maybe install a doorbell footage, that if these people do call to your house again looking for whatever or making threats, you've evidence of it. He will offer them the local supports. He'll have all the contact numbers for the Ardrews, for the Coonmirras, and then finally he will talk them through the process if they want to make a complaint, a formal complaint, how to go about that. So I think it's an advancement that's our part of the DRIVE initiative, is the Drugs Related Intimidation Inspector. And we if somebody in Carlow, ring the station, we can put you in contact with this, because it is a real thing out there and families and people are living in real fear. And, your car burnt out maybe for something as little as €200 or €300, or somebody threatens you, well, if you don't pay the drugs debt, we're going to meet your son or daughter down in Tulla Street or wherever it may be, and there will be consequences.
The fear of the unknown is
as a parent, Podge, you put yourself in that situation. What do? Do you go to the guards? Do you pay?
Yeah.
My advice is definitely reach out to us and we'll put you in contact with this trained guard inspector. It doesn't mean going to court. He will meet you offside, wherever, secure, wherever you want to meet, we will meet you, and he'll just give you the advice and talk you through. And it's, again, you go back to your supports. I suppose that's the support that An Garda Síochána can offer countrywide, but we can offer that in Carlow. And I think that's huge, and we'd love to see more and more people, rather than carrying that fear and going to bed at night.
You wouldn't sleep.
You wouldn't. And we know people aren't sleeping because of that. And that's not right.
It's silly money, right? Sometimes, as you said, it could be 50 quid.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be big, but it can be for small.
But it can snowball into something massive, can't it?
Yeah. And somebody, Peter McConaughey, used to always give the thing that the in rural Carlow, Mammy and Daddy sitting down at 7:30 on a Friday night to watch Coronation Street, and this knock on the door comes then, and your whole life is turned upside down because of an addiction that may be a family member, and they got themselves into a little bit of debt. These lads have to be paid. They have to get their money by hook or by crook. So I suppose the supports are there. Don't feel isolated. And I know it's very easy for me to say, and I'm just wondering, take the Garda uniform off, it came to my door, how would I handle it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I'll be honest.
You don't want to.
A lot of people don't know.
You don't.
No,
you don't. But it's happening more and more often, unfortunately.
There's a good chance that someone listened to this, because we are worldwide, Poppa, right? So we might have a couple listening to this that
in the Isle of Man, are we?
yeah. They have experienced. Actually, there is someone in the Isle of Man, I think, a few. But anyway, where do they go, lads? Where's the supports? Like, where do they go? Especially, locally here or nationally. Like, what's out there for them?
Well, I suppose from my we have our own business in Carlow, so we're well known. So it wouldn't be uncommon for people to call in and have a chat with me, just a general chat. Yeah, and that has often happened. And again, I'm not in a position to advise them, but sometimes you just want to chat. And some of the stories they're telling you, no, it's all confidential. I wouldn't be sharing it with anyone. But you might advise them where to go. As Connor said, there's a couple of services around Carlow. But I suppose my worry is, at the bigger picture, is because of the wide scale of the abuse. I don't think we have the services. I think we're bursting at the seams. And my worry is to try and, to get someone into a cool mirror or get someone in to a private clinic. It's very difficult. It's not as easy as people think.
The problem bigger than the resources?
The resources, they're stretched.
Yeah.
They're really, really stretched. And I suppose with all this information coming back, the stats and all, I know the government is looking at it and they're trying to plan ahead. But it's probably a little bit like the roadways in Ireland. We've loads of cars, you build the M50 and now the M50's chock-a block. So they are trying, but I think we need to get a quick fix with supports out there for people in addiction, because it's very difficult to get them in. Very difficult.
So like you're talking about going from maybe regional to local.
I just wrote down a few there, Podge. I knew this question was coming. So you have the HSE addiction services for Carlow and Kilkenny. What they offer is addiction counselling, the methadone clinic, as we alluded to here in Carlow, residential rehabilitation. We have the County Carlow Drugs Initiative, which is operated by Carlow Regional Youth Services. The work they do is phenomenal. Their drugs outreach worker is fantastic, and Catherine Wall, like what Carlow Regional Youth Services offer to young people, and it is just amazing. Absolutely commended. They're tentacles and everything. You have the Ardrew Substance Misuse Service in St. Dimphna's Hospital. You've Coinmurra, that Bernard. You've St. Francis's House over in Tullow for addiction residential treatment. You have the HSE National Drugs and Alcohol Helpline, 1-800-459-459. So look at that. There are supports down there. I referenced it earlier. The family support services down there in the ASCA. They do drugs counselling and drugs meetings and stuff. So look at that. A lot of the supports probably are hemorrhaging, or they are, overburdened, I would imagine. And look at, I suppose, your GP.
Yeah.
Your first protocol. Don't forget them. Your GP. And look at, if you're at that stage, A&E. If you're at the stage where it's just coping and whatever, but don't try not.
The NA meetings as well are very popular around.
Okay.
A lot of people travel to them around different areas, so there's loads there.
And come into us in community policing in Carlow.
Are you in the station?
We're in the station here in Carlow. Come in and look for me. No bother talking to anybody. It is busy. It is, but if a parent reaches out to us, and we've had some people from our talks might ring a couple of weeks later, might be just, can you do a talk in the school? I heard you. Would you mind doing a talk in my son's local school in Baglanstown? And we are in schools, but if somebody needs help, come in. They can look for me. I'm in Carlow a long, long time. Look for me, and we'll try and steer your, again, it's that perception, the guards, about prosecuting and enforcement, yes, but we will also help, as I said, go back to it,
of course,
keeping people safe. And if somebody wants to come in, look, it could be my son or daughter. I'd like to think that there's a guard that would be amenable and friendly and just say, look, at this is what I would do. That's all I can say in relation to that, I suppose.
Well, I definitely would make an outcry to other organisations to link in with you lads, because, as I said, I think this has to become collaborative and more broad than what it already is. I think the power in numbers will definitely help. You want for the lads, Pop?
Well, look, it's on Connor's behalf, it's very similar to what the Carlow League do. When Brian O'Reilly was on the podcast here, what they do for local clubs in their fundraising, pitch and all that, and all them sources that you said, people didn't know half of them. Well, you don't see them around.
No.
Thanks very much for that. And
Yeah.
on Bernard, it's more of a personal thing with me with Bernard because I know Bernard over 40 years. I grew up with his brother up and down the streets of Munster Park and the chopper.
The chopper motorbike.
The chopper motorbike, everybody wanted to go on it.
Headland,
brilliant. And yes, it's a real good man. He's a great supporter of local sport. So thanks, lads, for coming in.
Can I just thank you as well because, as I said, dialogue, the conversations, throw it out there.
Yeah.
We might reach 10, we might reach whatever number.
Yeah.
Like you're popular guys, you're well known in sporting circles in Carlow. The fact that you're talking about it, forget about me and Bernard, but the fact you're addressing it and you're reaching the target audience, young people, they might just say, well, Podge and Poppa, like they're serious about this, or they're not afraid to address these issues and talk about them.
Yeah.
So as you were saying, conversation, dialogue, don't hide it, get it out there, talk about it,
brilliant,
and help. So thank you, and thanks to Paddy for. I think Paddy was actually at one of our talks. His young lad is in one of the development squads, and I think Paddy, that's where he heard Bernard and myself.
Yeah, Paddy wanted to set it up because I'm going to be honest with you, it's not something that I ever thought was a problem as it is until I seen the thing in the Dolman that I missed that seminar, and just even doing a bit of research on this.
Definitely go to the next one, Dobber. Love to go to listen to it.
€15 ticket.
Yeah, that's all right, man.
I pay 50. So I'm not paying for yours, Papa.
But I suppose the most important thing, just out of the whole thing, if someone has someone within a family, for me, support them.
Yeah.
They're not outcasts.
I like that.
Yeah. And that's the most important thing for me. And if you offer your
someone,
but if you offer your hand out to someone, they mightn't take it the first or second time, but be there for them to support them. And that's my key message. You know what I mean? It's very simple.
When someone makes a decision to turn their leaf around,
be there and ready for them.
No, you have it.
100%.
Yeah. But if you cast and then they make the decision to run their own, and turn their leaf around by yourself, it's impossible.
And it's easy to judge and it's easy to do it, but they're your family, so do your best, isn't it?
Yeah, that's keep it. I love it. Lads, if anyone is affected by this, you've just heard the supports and the contacts and things like that. If this helps one person, if this brings one person to your door in relation to supports, I'm happy. Right?
100%.
Poppa, the results are in. You're doing the one chip challenge. The world's hottest chip.
No, just want to let you know. I want to let you know this.
What you like a spicy food, bud?
I cry over a taco fry of abracadabra, so I am fucked. That is not. I do, yeah.
I can't wait to see this. It's
ordered. 9 litres of milk here ready.
Bought on Amazon. Should be here around the end of June.
I'll do it, yeah.
It's coming from the depths of the Amazon. The chili, it's spicy. I also
get training for it now.
Yeah. You want to start eating a curry every day, like that Russian leader Rasputin who gives himself a bit of poison every day.
Yeah,
that became immune with chilies. I also want to promote St. Felix Dinner Dance. We were asked to be MC at it, but unfortunately
we're away.
I'm away. I'm on holidays again. Here I'm back from Augusta, Phileas Fogg. This on the 21st of June. It's in the Talbot Hotel. It's going to be a great night, to be fair, after winning the double into the Premier. And I am told the tickets are going fairly quick, lads, and you will get them in Brennan's. So make sure you get yours there because I'm sure it'll be a fairly good night now. I also want to say happy birthday to Wayne Murphy. I was talking to him and his partner Judy on Saturday night, Pop, and had plenty of negative feedback for us. And I told him that you will improve going forward. All right. So me
and Wayne was always negative when we used to kill each other. We're all right off the field, yeah? We're okay. That's part of the process.
He has a young lad, I can't think of his name, and Shell's doing really well. I never got the chap's name, but interesting conversation Saturday night about negative feedback. But you will change, it'll be great. Lads, thanks so much.
I'll never change.
Thank you very much.
That's a fantastic conversation. I think it's one that needs to be had and
very necessary.
Ian, and thanks for the support. Thanks for the Ampifi crew, Paddy and James and the rest of it. Poppa, it's not my podcast.
Not my podcast.
Carlow Soccer's podcast, a short podcast. That's good luck. God bless.
Brilliant.
Thanks, lads. Very good.
That's full time on this week's episode of the Housey Podcast. Available on all podcasting platforms. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter/X. Proudly sponsored by Ampifi. Got a story to tell? A voice that needs to be heard? Get in touch with us here in Ampifi, Carlow Town's professional home for podcasters of all kinds. We can be found on Instagram at Amplify Podcast Studio. Amplify, power up your podcast.